Hi guys, welcome back to the Captain Fishbeard YouTube channel. I'm Tom Sparke. We're continuing our Draw with Fishbeard series today with the amazing John Tucker. We've been so lucky to have two amazing artists so far, and John is no exception. He is an exceptional artist, as you will see on the upcoming video, and you're going to really enjoy this video. So, welcome to John. See you at the table. Hi guys, and welcome back to another Drawing with Fishbeard. We have another amazing guest today in the form of illustrator, author, raconteur, all-round good guy, John Tucker. Hiya, John.
Hello, how you doing? All right?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well.
Good. So you don't know what we're doing today. It's a bit of a surprise because these games haven't been broadcast before. So I'm going to spring some things on you. But if you've seen any of the other videos, it won't be a complete surprise to you. A little bit about yourself, John. Where are you? What brought you into drawing? Just give us a bit of background on you.
Right, part of history. Well, I'm broadcasting to you from lovely Wales. I'm from Cardiff originally. I live just outside of Newport now. What brought me into drawing? I mean, like when I'm very small. I mean, well, I was never very small relative to my age, but like when I was a smaller person than I am now, my mum was always there was always art supplies in the house. Like she was always like dead keen to get me drawing. And I think I started drawing before I learned how to write. Do you know what I mean? So like there was, just terrible paintings and doodlings and all this other stuff. But it's kind of been a lifelong thing. I mean, it's only in the last couple of years I've been putting out like actual like illustrated books, but it's been it's been, I wouldn't say it was I wouldn't say a calling, but an obsession perhaps, should we say.
Yeah. Yes, I can relate to that. Absolutely. Yeah. And your output is astounding. You're not only critically acclaimed, but loved by everybody that I know, certainly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very
much. So into this, right, I'm going to go through exactly what we're going to do with you. But first of all, I've got to make sure we are ready to go. Have you had your dinner?
Not yet. I'm going to have it after this.
What are you
going to have? Late lunch soon. I had a late lunch.
Okay, that's the key. What are you going to have for your dinner?
Oh, uncertain. Well, I'm a vegetarian, which basically means my wife's a vegetarian too. Right. So it'll probably be some sort of like fake meat pasta thing, I'd imagine, something like that. We'll figure out when we get to that.
I had veggie sausages and pasta for my dinner, so that's absolutely spot on.
There we go, the Tom Sparke endorsement. So we probably will be having that now.
And I'll tell you, it was fine.
Good. So, fine's enough.
Yeah, fine. It was fine. Okay. Have you got a drink with you?
Somewhere. Yes, somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can I ask what it is, or is it a secret?
It's just Pepsi Max. There's nothing exciting. It's just Pepsi Max. Well, have I left it downstairs? It's around somewhere.
Okay. There's maximum taste and no sugar in that, I believe. Is that right?
You're absolutely right, Tom. And I'd just like to thank Pepsi Max for sponsoring the show. Thank you to Pepsi Max for this.
It's not as illustrious as some of your previous sponsors, but there we went. Let's move on. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to draw is the things that have been contributed by our lovely followers on Twitter. So some of these people you may well know. First of all, I'm going to ask you to pick a thing from this list. I'm going to number order them here. And then there's going to be a profession or a character trait. And then there's going to be a location. So we'll end up drawing, for example, a duck who is a barrister in a zoo. So that's the sort of thing that where we're going to come from there. So first of all, the thing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. Pick a number from 1 to 6, please.
4.
Number 4 is a wolf. That was contributed by Kevin Barzy via Twitter. So thank you to Kevin. A profession. How many of these have we got? We've got quite a few here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Well, 10 then.
10. Okay, so we have a squeamish doctor or surgeon. That was contributed by Andy CT.
Oh yeah.
Via Twitter. A familiar name. And a location. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these currently.
Well, number 1.
Number 1, Mount Everest from Sam Hardacre. Another familiar name.
Right.
Good stuff. So that is a wolf who is a squeamish doctor / surgeon on Mount Everest.
Okay, I think we can make that work.
Now, we just go. And we have a chat whilst we're doing it.
Is there a time limit or?
No, you just carry on going. And depending on how much time we've got left, we'll do something else afterwards.
Right, so, there's music on that. Sorry. Don't know where I am.
It's quite all right. It's your music, isn't it? So it's.
It is.
There's no copyright issues here, right?
No, quite right. Okay, so wolf, squeamish doctor on Mount Everest. Okay. Oh, can I draw a wolf? Absolutely not, boys.
Yeah, no, this is.
Not.
Yeah, I struggled as well with a wolf.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to Google it. I'm gonna have to Google what
Google
a wolf
wolf.
looks like.
That's absolutely fine. Just
What
don't
is
look at
a
any
wolf?
gladiators references.
No. Okay. All right. It's kind of like a fox.
Different. I mean, that's a one for the kids there. That reference.
Yeah, that's one for everybody born prior to 1995.
I've drawn my wolf too happy. He's got to be squeamish. And he's got a big smile. Right, I'm going to have to change that. This is what art's all about, though. Getting things wrong, mixing it up. You often end up with a better result.
That is genuinely it, right? That is seriously the point of art. Like, if anyone's ever seen one of my live streams, 99% of it is me looking at lines and going, nah, don't know about that. When I'm when I used to go out to comic conventions, I used to draw live. Did you used to do the same, Tom?
No, I haven't done a huge amount of it, to be honest. No, I've done a few commissions at those sort of things, but no, the live drawing thing's only been more recent for me. Yes, well, really, yeah, since the lockdown. I've done workshops in schools and stuff, but not at cons. I haven't done live drawing there. But you've got various games that you play at cons, haven't you?
Yeah, well, Death Roulette's kind of the big one.
Yeah.
The one I'd say, if I'm known for anything, it's probably that.
Absolutely.
And then I think just before lockdown, I think it was the last BAM, I started doing fake IDs.
Oh, really? That's a fun one.
So it would, and the good thing about doing these is because, and it's something I've spoken to Charles Raymond a lot about in the past.
Oh yeah.
Is because he does the Fake-em-on commissions.
Yes, yeah, he's very good at those. Yeah.
Yeah, if you offer people like, I'll draw whatever you want, the easiest choice is for them to have nothing, because it's too much choice.
Yeah.
But if you just say to them, look, just make these very simple little decisions, and I'll do the rest.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for people, you know what I mean? And they're much more likely to bite. I mean, with Death Roulette, like, some people, we've gotten very good at spotting the people that we know pretty well who just classically won't. Yeah. And crucially, we've also gotten quite good at spotting the people who will go, oh, I don't know, ooh, chase me. And we're like, do you know what I mean? Like, get lost.
No time for these people.
No, exactly, no.
That's great. You mentioned BAM there. Which what is BAM?
Oh, BAM is I think it's the Bath. I've drawn the thumb on the wrong hand there. Whoops. BAM is the Bath Art Market, I want to say. I think that's what it stands for.
Right.
But it's Vince Hunt and Rachel Lee Carter. I think Lise Richardson is involved as well. And yeah, it was at Bath Comedia. It ran 3 times. It had like Christmas, spring, and Christmas again. Again, who knows when it'll run again now with all this business going on. But it was, and I think the good thing about it was because it was a free event. You weren't getting just the Comic-Con crowd, if you know what I mean.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get
More
like
sort
you
of general
get the
public.
general public,
Yeah.
and I tend to do better with people who aren't traditionally comics people. You
Yeah.
know, like people who come to comic conventions looking for, like a new franchise to get excited about. They don't tend to really, they're not really interested in like the slow, sort of like soft, silly stuff that I do.
Yeah. I know all about that. Yeah.
But the public, and another thing I've noticed is when I am at like the more sort of like conventional comic conventions, if the kids are running around in cosplay and they're buying, like Robert Downey Jr. temporary tattoos and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
and they're there with the parents, I pick up the parents.
Yeah. Nice.
So they'll
Yeah,
come over
I
and
see.
go, oh, what's this? Because it looks a little bit different, and then I'll get them that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's very well, quite familiar to me actually as well, but the other way around. It's the tend to get the kids in where the people around me aren't really often interested in the kids. The kids have just been pulled around by their the comics mad parents and.
Oh right, yeah.
it's
Yeah, because
often-
there's definitely a lot of them as well, like the small kids who have been brought to Comic Con against their will. Like I've
Yes.
definitely seen that a few times.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad we got Everest because the only thing that I know how to teach people how to draw is
Yeah.
mountains. So I'm glad we got that.
You can put some rock in there as well. I know you're a big fan of the rock.
Oh, rocks, easiest thing in the world, man. Easy, you can't get it wrong. Honestly, like I could teach a 4-year-old how to draw a professional looking rock, easy. And they can go around, they can go, look at this rock I drew. They go, oh my god, that's incredible.
I can see the outline of yours here now. It's looking fantastic, actually.
Well, what I've gone with is like a Mount Everest like medic station.
Yeah, very good.
But it's like it's like a junior wolf doctor. It's his first week on call, and he's like, "You got this, man. You got it. Come on." Someone comes up to you with a bleeding finger, and someone comes up and he's like, "Oh." Right, there you go. Okay, that's a start. Right, let's get some inks down.
I love the pose that you've gone straight for as well there. That's fantastic.
Hunched over in fear.
Yeah, it's really evocative. It shows exactly what the situation is.
It's a common pose in the medical field. I'll tell you that for nothing.
Awesome.
Okay.
Mine's a bit more of a sideways view. It's not nearly as creative as your effort here, but it's a.
I can't see yours. I'm gonna have to wait for this to go out before.
Well, no, I can always hold it up to you if you want to see it, but it's.
Go on. Let's have a look.
That's where we are so far. Can you see? Oh, we can do that to the.
Yeah, keep it moving. Oh, I see. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. You've gone for the summit.
Yeah, right at the top. Yeah,
Mine's more implied.
Yes. Be more of a realistic view, I think, yours as well. I like that. I might, because mine's a bit more simplistic, I might start adding a few more details and colours and things, but don't feel like you have to do those sort of things.
And also I've gone for the modern day doctor outfit, because people still draw doctors as like wearing white coats and stuff, and it's very rare you see a doctor in a white coat these days.
Yeah.
They look, it's all River Island now. All Sebastians and Tarquins fresh off the punt.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Henley sweaters and that sort of thing on the.
That's it.
On the go.
I feel like that's a passable wolf. I think that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fine.
It's a great wolf.
You draw animals.
That's pretty much all I draw. It's just.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I draw a lot of animals. But I've been working on my second Spring Hill Jack book more recently, so there's been a lot more people in that.
Well, I say I don't really draw animals. Says the person working on a book about frogs and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
But,
of course. Yeah.
so what was it that got you into this then?
Into drawing or
Drawing,
into?
yeah. What pulled you into it?
I've literally always done it. If you ask my parents, they said that I could, as soon as I could hold a pen, I was drawing. I had not really much interest in doing anything else as a kid. Would keep me properly quiet. Just set me down with a pen and a piece of paper, and I was away for hours. So all I remember doing as a kid was running downstairs in the early hours, putting on cartoons and drawing everything that I saw on the TV.
Yeah.
It became an obsession. I'm sure it was similar with you.
I mean, there was like a few sort of like flashpoint moments. Like I think it was, there was like a few comics on it. There was like the Beano and the Dandy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then I think the first time I realized that like this was something you could do and make your way in the world doing it, I think it was N64 magazine. I don't know if you ever had that.
No, I had a Sega, so I had the other ones, the Sega Power
right.
and the other.
Well, I had Sega Power because I had a Mega Drive first, but then I transitioned over when the N64 came out.
But yes, I'm familiar with the genre.
Yeah, so it was just like an unofficial like console magazine.
Yeah.
And like they always had like a meet the team thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they used to really sort of like shine a light on their art director, who was a fella called Will Overton.
Right.
Who is kind of still on the circuit now, because I found him on Twitter because like Vince Hunt is friends with him and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
And they would show his like art in the magazine.
Yeah.
I remember just being transfixed by it, and it was like, oh well, no, this is my full-time job, like drawing art for the magazine.
Yeah.
And it was a light bulb going off, because I thought that's, you can make a living doing this, Like I think I always knew it on some level, because like obviously like Quentin Blake was an inspiration and all that stuff. But, I think that was the first time it ever really dawned on me that you could do this for a living, and it would be nice if that happened one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember seeing something on the telly. Maybe it was Blue Peter or something along those lines, where they had a caricaturist on, and I thought, that was his job. And I remember thinking, that is an actual job. That is a career. And then suddenly, I went off and tried to do caricatures then at, I don't know, age of 9 or something. Realised I was awful at them, and then was crestfallen. Thought, well, I can't do this as a career now because I can't do this. And sort of a narrow view on the world.
It's amazing what you fall into by doing things like this. Like the stuff you get offered. Like a lot of the like illustration jobs I've been offered haven't been right for me for one reason or another.
Yeah.
But like a few years ago, I started doing like the match day programs for the Scottish like Premier League, the Scottish Professional Football League. And like would I have applied for that job? Absolutely not. Never in a million years. But I took it because it was just such a weird credit. I thought I've got to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've got to be able to say,
Where did you find that? Was it listed online somewhere or?
No, a mate of mine from years back got the job of like what was it? What was his actual job title? It was something like either social media coordinator or but whatever his job title was, because he handles the Twitter and the Instagram and everything.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But whatever it was, he the programs also fell within his purview.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message because he's seen my stuff, and he said, "Look, we're going for something like a little bit different to what we've had in the past, because in the past it was always photographs."
Yeah.
But he said, like back in the day, it was always illustrations or paintings. So he said, I'd like something a bit more like that. He said, he said, can you put something together, like an idea, and if it gets past the top floor, we'll run it. So I put together like it was like a sort of Saturday evening post type thing.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. I said, there you go. So we just need that done by, a week before the final, and that was 2018, and I'm doing it ever since. again, I remember when I did one for the Iron Brew. The Iron Brew Premier League or whatever. Basically, like any Scottish business sponsors a cup final in Scotland.
Right.
And it was an A5 cover because most of them were A4, and it was £3 for the cover. And my mate inside the SPFL, he sent me a link to Pie and Bovril, which is the Scottish professional football message board, like the message board. And it was people discussing the cover. And everybody was really. They were like, "Oh my god!" Because they were used to just photographs.
Yeah.
And I did because one of them had a stag on the badge and the other one had a ship, so I had like a stag and a ship in the water, like crashing into each other.
Nice.
And they were like, "Oh my god, we've never had anything like this. It's always been photographs." And someone commented, "It's all well and good, but I'm not paying £3 for a program."
So how's the streams been going? You've been getting quite a lot of people on there from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's been kicking right off.
Yeah.
No, they've been going pretty well. I mean, because I think around about like March, I think it was March. Or was it March? I can't remember, but it was around. Yeah, it must have been March. I sort of got the sense that that this was the way the wind was blowing in regards to, because the problem is, if you are doing comics and stuff, if you're doing like, because there are people I follow on Twitter who are like, they're like selfie camera comedians. They tell jokes into the front camera, or they do little skits and all that. And those you can just rattle them out.
Yeah.
But if you're illustrating books, you know what I mean? Like you've got to keep showing stuff or people just forget you.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I'm not going to be at shows, if I haven't got anything upcoming to promote until this big long book is finished, I'm going to have to start doing something else. So I thought, well, it's yet another thing that I can steal from Limmy, because he's got a very good Twitch stream and he's got this sort of like volatile relationship with his audience. So I kind of borrowed that from him.
Yeah.
And no, but I mean, people really seem to be enjoying it. And I've been enjoying it as well because, it's one thing to make like a pre-prepared video. I mean, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That I mean, I think that like and again, if you are like an independent comics person or an independent anything, you are your own PR. You got to do all your own everything.
Yeah.
And I think video editing is just one of those skills you've just got to have. You know what I mean? And those are all well and good and everything, but the live streaming is a totally different. Well, I'm sure as you've observed as well, because you've done a couple of them now, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. I've jumped on that bandwagon with your assistance, yeah. But yeah, no, it's a different feeling. Yeah, I absolutely love it, and I'm really enjoying doing these, especially with other people as well. This is only my third one with a guest, and it's fantastic. Each one is different. It's got its own identity, and it's they've all been so fun. Really had a laugh.
So who else have you had? You had Russell, didn't you?
Russell was the last one I did, the night before last.
Yeah.
Well, in real time, I'm giving a peek behind the curtain.
Mm.
The other one was with a guy called Ed Stockham.
Oh yeah.
Do you know him, or have you seen his stuff?
He's been on your channel before, hasn't he?
Yeah, his has been released. His video.
Yeah, I saw those.
He's an illustrator for the Beano, so yeah, we did his game.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but he was great. He's a lovely guy, and his game was fantastic. Yeah, there's lots of nice things that have come out of the lockdown. Lots of people doing things in very different ways and finding sort of creative ways to get their art across, or to help other people out and that sort of thing. It's been absolutely lovely. I
think that's what you've got to do. I mean, it's the thing is, with things like this, it's completely unprecedented. This is no one alive today has got any frame of reference for this. We've never had this, especially not in like the modern era, like the hyper connected time that we're living in. it's totally unprecedented. So I mean, I think however you choose to deal with it, I don't think you can't really be faulted for it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
absolutely not. No,
you've just
some
got to
people
try
are
and
more able to do things than others as well. I mean, it's a very
try and
tested
make your own way.
time.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
To the rocks. Here we go.
Oh yeah, I've tried to borrow some of your techniques on rocks, but it's off this mountain, but it's looking really odd actually.
Well, the trick to drawing rocks.
Yeah, go on.
You just get your shape in, and then so I put these little steps so you can see one here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's to give it contours, because no mountain is like that, is it?
Yeah.
So then what you want to do, you just go up to one of these steps and then just draw a little jaggedy line, and then maybe like another one just above it with, where it comes in at points and it widens out at points.
Yeah, that's looking good already.
And that, yeah, exactly. And this is just, it doesn't matter. That one's a bit too wide. Doesn't matter. Carry on with it regardless. That's fine, right?
Okay.
So you do a bit of that, and then a bit of that at the top. You bring the lines closer together as you go up the mountain, and then you just join it up with that sort of thing. So any place where there's a bend in these lines you've drawn here, you just and draw it and join it up somewhere else. Yeah,
I like it. Okay,
just do the same technique with the lines you've drawn there. And again, they don't have to be perfect. You can have a couple that are just completely off, because you do get those weird folds.
Yeah.
So like that, you see.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it, kid. This is tips from the pros, yeah.
Yeah, this is gold.
This is the stuff, isn't it?
That's
this is what you tuned in for.
There you go. I've had a little go, and I've had a little one behind my mountain now. Stick it up.
That's
and again,
right.
it doesn't look wrong. It's like, that's fine.
It's right every time. It's fine every time. And if you're a kid watching this and you're thinking, "Oh, this is good. I must look into who this artist is." Do not do that. Just a friend of Tom's, and that's all you need to know until you're older.
Yeah, let's say not all of John's work is safe for every audience.
Well, some books are good, but the thing is, it's all just boring grown-ups talking. They're not exciting stories for youngsters. A lot of them are just, it's the way grown-ups talk to each other, and it's about that sort of thing. It's like if you've ever been to the shops with your mum and your mum has spotted a friend of hers, and you've got to wait there for 40 minutes while they have a conversation. That's what reading my books are like if you're a kid. And you're just like reaching out and just like pouring at the crisps. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're tugging on the mum's coat. She's not taking any notice. You filled the trolley with sweets.
Yeah.
Is not even bald. Is bald?
I think the king is probably the only one that is like completely family friendly, where there's not even any hints at anything.
That is
king.
Oh,
here he goes.
He's off.
It's a good thing you've got it to hand, because I haven't.
Right, yeah. That's John's book, The King. And if I'm safe to flick through, which I think I am. There's a lovely picture of John. Yeah.
Which I packed off in my kitchen the day it went to print, because I forgot to take a nicer photo.
I think it's a beautiful one. Look at that. It's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you, man.
Look at that. There's John's autograph as well, if you want to forge anything.
Yeah, we're doing rocks today, and next week, kids, we're going to be doing checks.
Go and ask your dad what a check is.
This isn't mine, but I've been dithering. See, I've invested too much time in the rocks, so I'm gonna have to hurry up.
I'm gonna practice drawing some rocks now. This is wonderful.
If we get rid of the pencil lines, that's all right. Actually, I think that's
that
okay.
Is absolutely fantastic, John.
There we go.
I love it.
Squeamish Dr. Wolf at the top of Mount Everest. You know, he's ready to forge a new life for himself. He's sick of being a wolf. He's like, no, you know what? I gotta go back to medical school, right? I know it's family pressure and all that, but I can feel it in my heart, boys. You know what I mean? And all the other wolves like, we're just gonna go around doing wolf stuff, and he's like, yeah, well, that's not for me. And he opens up his practice on Mount Everest, but he's still not quite got the hang of it, have he?
No, I think he's out of practice. Maybe he hasn't seen much action for a long while.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, someone's come along with this gash in their finger.
Yeah, this little paper cut, and he's flipped.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is fantastic. What a work of art that is there. Absolutely love it.
There we go.
We have lots of people drawing along at home, and hopefully they've copied yours. Because that is a beaut.
Well, if you have drawn along at home, and you've gone with the John Tucker method of drawing rocks, as we've discussed, or if you've done your own version of this, do make sure to forward it on, because I'd be very interested to see it.
Absolutely, yeah. You can send it into my email address, where you can find John online.
Don't do that.
All right, Tom at CaptainFishbeard.com.
Then there's a Tom.
Send them in there.
Yeah.
I'll make sure John sees them.
Send it to Nice Tom, and he'll send it on to Questionable John. There we go. The real irony is, right, is there's nothing I would like to do more than to illustrate children's books. There's nothing I'd like to do more in the world. I'd like if someone my dream job is no job, because no one likes having a job. But if I had to have a job and I could pick it, it would definitely be like a sort of Quentin Blake, or like a Kate Beaton if we're going more contemporary. Yeah,
absolutely.
Something like that. That would be a nice way to live, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's just fun. You just get to have a lot of fun with the illustration.
Drawing's a laugh, boys, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the point. I mean, if you're not having a laugh with it, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
That's it. I'm going to clip that. Drawing's a laugh, boys. I mean, that is spot on. Exactly what it should be.
It's got to be a laugh, isn't it? And if you're not having fun with it for I'm not quite where I want to be and blah blah blah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about how long it takes to get good, because the time will pass anyway. And the worst thing that could happen is you wake up one day, I'm 80 years old now, and I could have just spent the time practicing anyway.
Exactly, and I think that there's a lot to be said for, if you're not happy with something's not fun for you, and it's not something that you really have to do for a job, or you're compelled to do for certain reasons, mix it up. Like in the Spring Heeled Jack comic that I did, the very first one, originally all the characters were human, apart from Hyde, who was a werewolf, who was just the most fun to draw. He's not really a werewolf, he's a Jekyll and Hyde character. He turns into a monster. But then I looked at it, I wasn't really happy with it. It wasn't fun enough, and it wasn't interesting enough to draw. So I turned all the policemen into various meat products. And it made it so much more interesting and so much more fun to draw, and it made it visually more interesting as well. So I had more fun doing it, and I think that was reflected in the comic thereafter. It made it better. Yeah.
And if you've had an idea for something and you think, I don't know about this, because there's not really any, I've never seen this sort of thing before, and I don't really know if it'll work. But if it's a good idea to you, have a go with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it could just be your niche. It could be your thing that no one else is doing. This magic, because every good idea. I can't remember who said this. I think it was like some advertising executive or something. Is it a good idea? Is a £5 note on the floor of the bar? It's just whoever picks it up first gets it. And I think
absolutely,
you just gotta take some risks. Not everything's gonna pay off. That's the truth of it. But you just got to find something that works for you, and stick with it if you're having a laugh with it, and don't if you're not.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if you're having a laugh with it, the chances are other people will enjoy it as well, because it shows and it comes through.
Yeah, and even if they're not enjoying it, if you're enjoying it, that's what counts.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That is the thing, and that is coming from a man who one of the most inventive illustrators out there.
Well, the thing is, the reason I started doing, because for anyone who's listening who hasn't read my books or due to age restrictions cannot read them, my books are about sort of normal people, but then something strange or a little bit sad happens to them and all the rest of it. And the where that came from was because I started doing comics when I was at university. I lived in Manchester when I was at university, and there were all these like little self-made comics and stuff that people had just made and like given away for free. And there was this great environment of just creativity for its own sake, just for having a laugh, like we were talking about. But then when I sort of started doing my own comics and started looking around at other people's, like there was a few people doing stuff about like their own lives and all the rest of it, like people like Kate Beaton and things like that. And there were other people doing this really off the wall stuff, like Casey Green, who's a perennial favorite of mine. But a lot of what I saw seemed to be kind of based on things that had come before, and I thought, well, this doesn't really resonate with me or anything I've experienced in my life. Like the people that I thought were funniest growing up were like, mates of my dad who didn't even realize they were funny. And I think there is like, and if you're growing up in certain parts of Wales, there is something funny about the Welsh way of speaking. Like these shaggy dog stories that go on forever and ever, and equal import is put on the most and least important parts of the story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the example I always give is I remember someone telling a story about somebody else who shortchanged them on a car sale. Because I used to work in a bar in this little village where I come from.
Yeah.
And I'd hear it all in there. And one of them said, well, I'm telling you now, boys, right? I thought this deal was kosher, right? Because Jeff, and for 2 months, in 1985, he owned the most horses in Wales. Right? And I remember thinking, what a weird detail to include. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's got so many questions.
Yeah, it brings up way more questions than it answers.
That's so specific.
Yeah.
How did he know?
Yeah, I know.
And when he was usurped and somebody else had more horses, was it in the paper?
Yeah, did they call him?
Yeah, that's what he did. You got, oh, John, it's that phone call you've been dreading.
Hey, Jeff, how many horses you got, son? 600. See you later, mate. But that was it, like, because that was the stuff that I thought was funny when I was sort of like a younger man and all the rest of it. And I still think it's funny now.
Yeah.
And but it just wasn't getting the exposure that I thought it deserved. So I thought, well, I'll do books like that then. I'll do books about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe people will relate to it. And even people who like, don't share my experience and my upbringing and all that, they've related to some of the stuff I've written down as well. So like even people who who maybe don't have the exact same experience as me, they've managed to find something in their own life that they can relate to it with. I think all it takes, because I tell you, there's nothing more. If you are watching this and you're thinking of pursuing a creative career of any stripe, not just illustration. I mean, there's music or anything where you've got to put something of yourself into it. Yeah. Because it can be very daunting, to be honest with an audience and an audience that may not be supportive or they may not get what you're trying to do and all the rest of it. Because I've had plenty of people, read my books at like comic shows and I can see on their faces they're not quite getting it. Do you know what I mean? Like, plenty of times, But I think the important thing is if you're doing anything like that, you've got to like put a bit of yourself into it, right? And I'll tell you this now: there is nothing better than somebody picking up something you've really poured yourself into and saying, "God, I love that."
Yeah.
Like there was something about that really clicked with me, and that feels really good to hear that. And you may not get it every time, but I think if you're honest with your art and you try and include a bit of yourself in it, people will click with it.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree. You've just reminded me actually of the.
This is getting a bit joy of painting now, isn't it?
It is. It's great. I love it. On the, I know you did. You were very supportive actually prior to when I did the live draw for the Fair Spark con that was put on. Following my appearance later on in the day, there were the guys from the That Comic Smell podcast.
Oh yeah.
I think Tom Stewart, put you up there with one of his favourite of all time amongst all the greats. They've been talking Will Eisner, they've been talking Jack Kirby, and then he put your name in that mix.
Well, that's very kind. I mean, there's no accounting for taste, is there? But no, it's very kind. But
it means obviously a huge amount to him, and he's an excellent judge. He's a real connoisseur, and to his taste, you're there, you're up there in terms of your illustration, which everyone can see is absolutely fantastic. Your skills on screen are awesome, but also your storytelling is is equally good. It's well crafted tales of drawn from life and your imagination.
Yeah, and I think and another little trick, right? Because because I remember I was thinking up weird stories when I was a kid, and and that can be very difficult when if you're given a creative writing task at school and everybody else's story ends with "and it was all a dream," and yours is like set in the Soviet Union and all the rest of this stuff, right? It can be very daunting to pipe up with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But one little tip that I've found works for storytelling, right, is you can get away with the weird stuff if it's just rooted enough in reality, so that people can see something of themselves in it that they relate to. And I think if you look at a lot of science fiction, a lot of the really successful science fiction is either an allegory for a real life problem or anxiety, or it's rooted in sort of believable humanity. Do you know what I mean? And I think you can really get away with the weird stuff, right? And I don't tell many people this tip, mind you, right? The trick to getting away with the weird stuff is you answer a couple of the little questions that the viewer may have, and you include little details to satisfy those questions, but you never answer the big question. Right? Yeah. The most obvious question that anyone would have if this was to happen in real life. Never answer that. Because you can add little tips as convincers, right? But because one of my books, which I think Tom mentioned earlier, called Bald. It's about a man who is born bald, and he's bald for his whole life, and then when he's an adult, he actually starts to, like, the inside of his head starts to go bald as well. So the inside of his skull starts to disappear, and there were lots of little convincers I added to that. There it is. There it is, my 2018 magnum opus, Bald. And I did lots of little convincers, like I had a doctor turn up and explain why this was happening, and I had all these other things happen around him that would sort of add to the story, but I never actually answered the key question, which is, why has this happened?
Yeah.
I never tackled
it is one of my all-time favorite books. It's so good. It's really, really enjoyable read.
I don't think I'm ever going to beat Bald. I got to be honest.
So when you've made something like that, you've drawn it, you've made the story, and it's going off, and you've obviously got those sort of things printed. Are you thinking about what you're going to do with it next? Are you thinking, I'm just going to have this at cons, I'm going to sell it online to anybody who wants it and that sort of thing, or are you thinking maybe a wider audience wants this, maybe a publisher might want it? Are you thinking around those sort of lines?
I don't pitch to publishers. I never have. I can't imagine I ever will. I think it's one of those things, like, if what's for you won't pass you by. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if someone like, I'm not going to actively go out and pursue that, because for me this is just a laugh, essentially. Whoa. So I'm not really too concerned about pursuing that line of things, because with anything like artists, you got to, like, define your own comfort and your own level of success, and I'm pretty happy with what I've got at the minute. So what usually happens is I finish it, I print it up, I make a big stupid video and a big stupid announcement on Twitter, like this thing's coming out and you got to get it. And then as soon as that video is uploaded, the next day I have forgotten that book ever existed. It is gone. Right? And that's a fault of mine, because you've got to be able to, if you've made something, you've got to be able to keep it in front of people's eyes to try and get some coverage for it. But I'm terrible at that. Like, I just, as soon as it's finished, I'm like, whew, right, what's next? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's a creative process, isn't it? That's what you love. And yeah, getting an ISBN number or trying to make Waterstone stock it's really hard, and it's not rewarding, and it's horrible stuff to do. Yes, it can bring great returns in the future, or great results, but it can also be really disheartening and horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think like if I'm sure there are lots of people out there who are perfectly comfortable doing the whole the publisher thing and all the rest of it, but it's just, I mean, I'm smart enough to know I feel I understand the scope of my books. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of them are going to be mass market bestsellers, but I think for what I do, I think it's they're moving in decent enough numbers, and that's fine by me. So
great.
It's not really something I've thought about a great deal, to be honest with you. Like,
good. No, that's a wonderful attitude to have, and it's it is quite rare, I think. There's a lot of people just continually looking up and up and up, and on to the next bigger and better things. Very nice, refreshing to hear. This is just something that you absolutely love, and you're doing it because you love it.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, I'm always looking to do different stuff all the time. Like, I started making like promotional videos for my books, and they worked really well. So I thought, well, I'll do that every time. So I do that every time now. And then I thought, well, I'll start Twitch streaming, and that went really well. So now I do that. And at the minute, like, and you hear a lot of people saying, oh, you have to learn a new skill during lockdown. I don't think that's true. Like, you've just got to make it work for you. But I have had a bit of time, so I thought, well, I've had like ideas for like animated shorts for a very long time, so I'm just going to try and make one of those. Just teach myself, and that's the other thing. Like, I've never had any like formal art tuition. This is just from just banging my head against it, and you can get there that way, It's a totally valid way of learning how to draw. You just, even if it's just a case of looking at a bunch of different art and figuring out what it is you like and what it is you don't, because you learn from that way. Like, I was never really one for like the really exaggerated Japanese style of drawing.
Yeah.
But but there are people who I really like who've been inspired by that, and that kind of filtering process. There are some things that really resonate through that.
Absolutely, I think that borrowing aspects of the art that you see is really, really important. Like I said, I'm same as you. I've never had any training in how to do this, other than drawing everything I saw on the TV, drawing every comic that I had, recreating those sort of things, drawing my favourite characters over and over again. I must have drawn 1,000 Sonic the Hedgehogs and
same
500 Marios, during that sort of time.
Yeah. No, it was the same for me. And then when I got a bit older and I started, sort of looking at some people who are doing art online, like I'd see, you see someone like Kate Beaton, who does children's books and all the rest of it. But her style is really sort of like, it's really scruffy and like almost like avant-garde. And there's something about that. I thought it just looks so free. It's just like, it looks like it's all done in one go. Like, I know it's not, because she said that she struggles with stuff and all the rest of it. But I thought, my God, that just looks so liberating. And I took a bit of that from her, the whole don't sweat every little detail, because, you've got to be sort of, you've got to have your own personal style in it and all the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And even not looking at like comics. I mean, if you just go to a museum, right, and you go or you just get like a book of art from the library or something like that, right, you'll see things in there, and I think it's really useful to look at different stuff like that, and actually think about, right, what is it about this that's actually speaking to me? Do you know what I mean? Like, what has this got in common with these other things, and try and find out the root of it. Because another thing I found out fairly early on is like a lot of sort of like older paintings, like sort of Renaissance paintings didn't really hold my interest, but Edward Hopper's did, And then I realized what it was is that in Edward Hopper's paintings, even though the people are together, they are ultimately alone. Do you know what I mean? So like they're all quite fairly spaced out. So there is a story at play even in just the paintings. Like, so I think it's useful to go through get your hands on as much different stuff as you can, and try and find out what is the common thread. What is it about this that speaks to me? And that will then inform what you go on and do yourself.
Fantastic. That is such good advice. I think that's really, really key, because a lot of people do struggle with direction. Style. What do you want your style to be? What sort of art do you want to be making? And it's something that I've had the question more than once. People just go, I don't know which path to go down. I like this, and it does take a while to come together. But like you say, doing that sort of research and looking at lots of different things will definitely lead you somewhere, and it'll probably be an amalgamation of lots of things that you love.
Even if it's just finding out what you don't like.
Yes.
Because that is just as important, finding out what you don't vibe with,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
But it's not easy. I mean, art is not easy, but it can be very rewarding.
Oh, hugely, absolutely. But like I say, yeah, you need to be doing something that you love, rather than sort of slave away and do something which is very successful, but that you hate every minute of putting it together, and it's not worth it. It's never going to be worth it if you do that sort of thing. And I think a lot of the time, you can see,
and you've got to like it as well.
Oh yeah. And I think you can see when someone's drawn something they don't particularly engage with. I think there's less life in it.
Yeah. Well, that's it, because I'm not really one for fan art, but I don't know if I've mentioned this in the past, but I'm something of a fan of Frank Sidebottom. And
yeah, hang on, I'm going to get my next prop.
Oh, here we go. Well, you're better stocked than I am, and you've got more of a books than I have.
Frank's featured in a few of these videos already, actually. Well, this book has, anyway.
QVC, this is.
It is? Oh, there you go. That's another family-friendly one, although if you can get your hands on it, you're doing well, because they are few and far between.
Yeah, it was only 100 of them. But yeah, I mean...
4. That's just incidentally.
Oh, you were quick. But yeah, I mean, I'm big into Frank Sidebottom, and for me, it was no struggle to draw Frank, because I'm such a fan of his art and his work. Drawing him was easy, and again, you look at someone like Frank Sidebottom, who, for some of our younger viewers, if you make it this far, was a man who wore a giant papier-mâché head, and he had a nose clip, like a swimmer's nose clip, and he used to talk like that, right? And he would just go around and annoy people in this big papier-mâché head, and that was his job. That was his professional life's work, right? But I really related to Frank, and so it was a lot easier for me. Like, if I picked something else to do for that Inktober project, it would have felt like much more of a slog than it was to do Frank, who I already had an affinity with,
Absolutely, yeah. I totally get that. It's it doesn't feel like work when you're really doing it for those sort of reasons. You're loving the results and obviously thinking up the things. The thing you did with that Inktober project, if people don't know, Inktober is a project we do, or some people do in October, where you draw an image every day and release that onto social media. But it's obviously the Franktober book is various different versions of Frank Sidebottom in different circumstances or costumes and that sort of stuff. You can probably put it better than me, John.
No, that's about right. Well, the thing is, the real Frank, who's sadly no longer with us, used to do this for real. Like, he would do these shows at the London Midlands Railway Club in Timperley, and it was like a Sunday school hall, right? And he would do these shows, and sometimes he would come out dressed as like Freddie Mercury or Danzig from the Misfits by just altering the head slightly, you know. And I thought it was just so creative, and everything was done on a shoestring because he never had much money, bless him. But I think it was just so creative and just such, that was just raw talent that drove that along, you know. So I think like that was just my little sort of my little take on something that he set the precedent for of adapting this very plain template, which was the papier-mâché head, and managing to adapt it into something that looked completely different, even though it was recognizable, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
So have you finished already? Am I just?
Yeah, I've done my joy. I've done a couple of other ones since. I've done.
Oh, you haven't. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
No, it's all good. This is absolutely brilliant. I loving chatting to you. I'm currently drawing a Frank Sidebottom.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, just drawing to keep up with the chat. Actually, I want to do him as Freddie Mercury, but I can't remember what the. Well, yeah, it's a vest, isn't it? It's just a vest on that.
Yeah,
did he do it with the yellow jacket?
He did have the yellow, the jacket with like the long leather strips across the front that sort of like clasped on.
Yeah. Let me Google the Freddie Mercury jacket. I'll put him in that.
Well, there's actually pictures on Google of Frank as Freddie Mercury because he did release a Queen EP.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
That apparently was played at Freddie Mercury's 40th birthday party.
Oh, fantastic.
And when they asked him what he thought, he said some of it works and some of it doesn't.
That's brilliant. What a clash of minds there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So have you always been into Frank Sidebottom? I don't know how old you are, but I know he was big in sort of late 80s, early 90s sort of time. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember him from his sort of like original run that sort of went into the early 90s. I think I do vaguely remember him, and I think I do vaguely remember being frightened of him when I was a kid.
I have that overriding memory as a child, yeah.
Yeah, but it was only... And then he just sort of fell off my radar for a very long time. And then I was living in Manchester, and I remember seeing on the front of a newspaper, Frank Sidebottom ill. And then the next thing I saw was that he'd passed away at home. So, I was half a mile up the road from these shows he was doing. Didn't know they were happening. Didn't know. Just wasn't on my radar. And they were like £2 to get in. And at the end of the night, he'd give everything away. All the props and everything. Like, because there's in the documentary about him, someone was saying, you've got to stop giving away the set because then you have to make it again every week. It was just the way he was, because he said when the Frank head is on, he wouldn't answer to Chris, his real name. He would only answer to Frank. And he said, it's not up to me, it's up to Frank. And that's just the way he was. He lived the art life, and
that's brilliant. That is brilliant. It really is just doing things for the sake of the thing, and keeping that going. Even though he could have been more successful had he not done that potentially.
Well, it's the life. You're either in it or you're not. It's the art thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, we're nearly done with this. Sorry, Tom. I know we've gone over time.
No, it's all good, mate. That's absolutely brilliant. I appreciate spending all this time with us. I should have left it at the head. It's gone all wrong now.
That's right. You can't go wrong with Frank. That's the other good thing about it, because all of his costumes look so shoddy anyway, because it's all made out of cardboard and tape. You can't get it wrong. That's the wonderful thing about it. Right, Joe, I'm going to call that done.
That is fantastic.
Done.
John, that is an absolute masterpiece. I absolutely love it.
I'll sign that, and that's copyright, kids, and that's something you've got to get your head around if you're going to get into the art game.
Yeah. Yeah, got to get that John Hancock in there.
There's a high-res digital signature for anybody who does want to take out a loan in my name. There we go. But there we are. So that's Done.
That is absolutely brilliant, John. You've been so generous with your time and with your wisdom today, as well as showing off your fantastic art skills. So I really, really appreciate you spending this time with us today.
No, I've been happy to do it. Happy to do it.
So finally, is there anything you want to say? Any way you want to direct people? There's people young and old. Well, so you can be as cryptic as you like, or.
All I will say is that if you are an adult, if you have a Comic House subscription, my collected works are available on Comic House. It's called Picture Books for Bad People, and it's 323 pages. Big long book. You won't get through it in one sitting. But again, if you're an adult, you can see me streaming live on Twitch a couple of times a week. I'm at twitch.tv/John Tucker Art, and I'm the same username on Twitter, and I usually announce my live streams on there, and then spend the next 20 minutes arguing with my terrible audience. Really bad quality audience, not like the Captain Fishbeard audience where it's all under control and everyone's being nice and respectful. My audience are animals, right? And that's the other risk you take when you get into the art game.
You never know who you're going to interact.
No, you don't. That is the real danger of
it. Well, that's brilliant, John. Thank you ever so much for your time again.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Thank you very much.